sinabi ni President Marcos, I have no plans to go back to the ICC. But we also heard him say that, pero pag-aralan natin, let's be careful, let's be circumspect. Just curious, as an international law expert yourself, maybe you could clarify this thing for us first also. Membership is one thing, being party to the treaty is one thing. Cooperation is another matter altogether. In other words, is there a space here where the government can say that we are not party to the treaty? On the other hand, they can either have the option or even be perhaps on a certain level be obligated to cooperate? Is there a space like that here?
Speaking as an academic, and as an advocate of international criminal law, when you become a party to the Rome Statute, you're under the obligation to cooperate for the period of time that you were in fact a party to the treaty. The duty to cooperate ceases after you terminate or after you leave the treaty, but for everything that happened during the time when you were under or a member of the treaty, then you have a duty to cooperate. The problem with international law is even if you don't cooperate, even if you are theoretically in breach of a treaty, now what?
We'll get to that.
And in the case of the ICC, service of summons, service of warrants depend on the cooperation of the state.
I see.
Having said that, President Duterte, it was his idea, said that if and when the ICC persists in their investigation and should there be a warrant of arrest issued, he will go to the Philippine Supreme Court and challenge that order because according to him, the exercise of jurisdiction is a violation of our treaty obligation because we became a member of the treaty only on the condition that the ICC would be a court of absolute last resort and not a court of first instance. And he's confident the Supreme Court will in fact rule that the only instance when the ICC can exercise jurisdiction when domestic courts are unable or unwilling, he is pretty much confident that the Supreme Court will not admit that Philippine courts are unable or unwilling.
No, but Attorney Roque, if I'm not mistaken, you yourself contemplated and at certain points was even tantalized by the notion or the possibility of these mechanisms existing side by side and being applied even within the court. You wrote in your own blog, for example, things that will have to improve in our justice systems. You said an agency, among other things, most likely like the DOJ, would have to be identified, tasked to cooperate with the ICC in this regard. The Supreme Court, you contemplated, since the ICC would be exercising judicial power in the Philippines, a first, I have to say, a possibility that I never thought would be possible, would have to amend its own rules. Now, I don't know if those rules were ever actually put in place, but you yourself contemplated that, if I'm reading it right. You yourself contemplated that. You yourself sounded excited by that prospect.
Yes. Well, that is why I think the positive thing that will come out of this investigation of the ICC is that our courts, the executive, the police, civil society, and the jails, the pillars of the criminal justice system have to come together to make the system work better. I never said that this the Philippine legal system is perfect. Yes, we convicted the Ampatuans for 57 counts of murder, but to me, it is unacceptable that it took 10 years. Yes, we convicted Pemberton, but I never considered it was a perfect prosecution because we never laid hands on the person of Pemberton while he was being investigated. So the system is far from perfect. But Robbie, always look at the caseload of the ICC where they actually exercise jurisdiction. It's cases of failed states. One thing good is because of this investigation, we will be compelled to examine our institutions with the end view of improving it. And of course, I agree that we have to improve. In fact, when I ran for the Senate, that was one of my platforms. I wanted, number one, to hasten prosecution by adopting inquisitorial system, which basically is the system that they have in the ICC, being a European institution. It is the prosecutor that procures the evidence and not the police. Number two, I wanted a victims compensation fund, which is patterned after the ICC. So I'm not saying that this prosecution is all bad in the sense that it challenges to do better, but because of admissibility and our treaty consent that we will only recognize the ICC as a court of last resort, I believe they should not exercise jurisdiction. And I think eventually, no less than the court or the Philippine Supreme Court will uphold this position.